founder Steve Jobs. Everyone's familiar with him. Well, Steve Jobs said, "I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance." Who agrees with that? Perseverance. No matter what, you're going to get the job done. You got to have perseverance. So please join me in welcoming two people who truly understand perseverance. Maria Beckett founded Maricom Systems, Inc., an IT firm specializing in data management, software engineering, and business intelligence solutions. She served as the company's CEO until 2011, when it was acquired by Computer Sciences Corporation, CSC. Ms. Beckett expanded her organization from a one-person consulting business to a well-established government contractor with more than 250 employees and consultants. Prior to forming Maricom, Ms. Beckett worked in technical positions in the telecommunications, insurance, and manufacturing industries. Ms. Beckett is a former president of the President's Roundtable. Next, Eddie C. Brown started Brown Capital Management in 1983. He is the chairman of the firm's board of directors and a member of the management committee, the firm's governing body. Mr. Brown boasts more than 40 years of investment experience, serving as vice president and portfolio manager at T. Rowe Price Associates, Inc., for 10 years before starting his own firm. He is the author of Beating the Odds, Eddie Brown's Investing and Life Strategies. Mr. Brown is a former president of the President's Roundtable as well. Let's welcome both to the stage, Miss Maria Beckett and Mr. Eddie C. Brown.
So we decided that we were going to do something different this year in terms of our program. And we wanted to have a look back and then a look forward. When I spent time in West Africa, in Ghana and Liberia, there's a mythical bird called the Sankofa bird. And this bird is very special in that as it's flying forward, it's looking backwards, because it wants to learn from the past as it creates the future. And so I thought that this would be a good model to use as we discuss the history of the President's Roundtable, taking a look back, and then taking a look forward. So I will tell you also that, again, this is off script. I can do that, you know. Before I assumed the chair of the President's Roundtable, there were two people and more that I talked to. I talked to Maria, former president. I talked to Ed Brown. And I asked them for advice and guidance as to what we needed to do to be successful. And they were very gracious in their time with me, and I appreciate that. So using the Sankofa bird model, let's take a look backwards, all right? So there was a lot of history here that we've talked about and looked at. Tell me, in terms of moments when you were presidents of the various time frames, what was a fun time that you had as president? What were fun things that happened to you? I'll start with Maria.
Oh, okay. Let's start with me. So actually, before I was president, I think that was probably one of the funnier moments. We, every year at the PRT, and I assume you still do it now, since I'm not a member of it, but I assume you still do it.
Sure.
We have these annual retreats.
That's correct.
And it was at the end of one of our annual retreats, actually it was in 2010, something inspired me. I just kind of felt this energy. And the then executive director, Brenda Coburn-Smith, she and I, at the end of the whole event, I said, why don't we just go and, to this restaurant in Ellicott City and, have a glass of wine and just talk a bit. I want to talk about some of the things I was thinking. And we went over there to Iron Bridge, Ellicott City, and another former member, another woman, Donna Stevenson, joined us. And we ordered a bottle of wine. And we just sat and we talked about everything that we had discussed over the past couple of days of this retreat. And the more we talked and the more we drank, we just got more and more empowered, so that by the end of the second bottle of wine, I was like, you know what? I think I want to be president. And it's so funny, as I look back on it now, I do crack up laughing, because I don't think I would have done that had it not been for those 2 bottles of wine. But yeah, that was when I decided I wanted to step up to the leadership. I had been with the organization for, I think, at that point, 6 years.
I see.
And I said, I think it's time for some female leadership. And that's what I did.
And
for
you
the
were
next year.
our first female president.
So here's the really funny thing.
Okay.
We're at the table, the round table, which wasn't really round, but we're at the table with all of our members. We had gone through the whole process of nominations, vote, and I was elected president of the President's Roundtable in 2010. And once the election was over, and where's Joe Haskins?
He's over there somewhere.
He's over there
Joe,
somewhere.
wave your hand, Joe.
Hey,
There you
Joe.
go.
Joe, you might remember this. So we're sitting around the table, and after all was said and done, someone said, "Congratulations, Maria, you are the first female president of the President's Roundtable."
Wow.
And Joe said, "Well, actually, she's not the first female member." Honestly, I don't remember who it was. But no, I was not the first woman president of the President's Roundtable. It was someone that Joe can recall.
But you did lay the foundation groundwork for Dr. Sheila Brooks to become the next woman president of the President's Roundtable.
Sheila and I have many conversations about the female leadership of the PRT.
I bet you have.
We do. And I think together, we've done a number of wonderful things, I believe.
Absolutely.
To kind of bring the PRT forward.
I agree.
She and I both worked together to make this more of a regional organization instead of just a local Baltimore organization. The PRT Reach Foundation started under my presidency, and then Sheila just took it off the charts and put together this annual event that,
absolutely.
It's just, I think the women really showed up
absolutely.
For the President's Roundtable.
We're here for the ladies, that's right. And so, Ed, were you around when they were having the weekly meetings at the McDonald's restaurant on North Avenue?
Yes, back in the old days.
Back in the old days?
But here's the thing, I was never really president. I had the opportunity, but I never wanted to be president. But I was on the executive committee. And as you said, 35 years. So it was started in 1983.
Right.
I started Brown Capital Management in 1983.
Yeah.
But there was a technicality, and it still exists. You have to have a black-owned business, but also you have to have a certain level of revenues. So, 0 assets under management, 0 revenues, 0 income. So I didn't qualify in 1983. But fast forward, I think 2 years or so, I'd reached the minimum level of revenues necessary to become a member, and I was invited to become a member. So I was an early member, but not one of the founding members.
I see. So
the funniest thing to me about the early days of the Roundtable, I don't know why we met weekly. What are you going to talk about every
That's a
week?
lot, Ed. That's a lot. I agree.
But imagine this scene.
I agree.
North Avenue, right off of Charles Street, still there, McDonald's. Osborne Payne had several McDonald's, in the city. So the meeting was always in the basement of that McDonald's. Now, it was during the time when business casual didn't exist. If you're in business, you wore a tie and a suit and the appropriate dress for women. So every week, we walk into this McDonald's, decked out, and imagine the scene and the impressions of the people around. So what's going on? So this would happen once a week, and just to watch the nonverbal expressions.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so that was the funniest thing to me, but it happened every week, Come in, Yeah, so anyway,
So Ed, so what was, before I pivot to the future, so what was one of the most important lessons you learned during that time frame when you were part of the PRT? What was one important lesson that stuck with you, maybe to help made you be successful as you are? Can you think of something?
well, the whole idea behind the roundtable, and that still is very beneficial, is as an African-American business person, who do you talk to?
Right.
Your spouse may not be in business, may not know anything about
Amen.
business. And the most important thing to me was to have a forum of like-minded black business people who understood, they were in the trenches, understood making payroll, all of the things that you need to have a successful business, to exchange ideas.
I see.
And get feedback. And, just that forum was the most important thing to me.
So that shared vision and shared purpose and being able to share that with other like-minded people was very helpful to you.
Yeah, and to get input, I have this challenge, how would you approach
Absolutely.
this? And everything was confidential, and you felt at ease to share, the good and the bad.
Absolutely.
And get help
Yep.
from like-minded
The
business
good, the
folks.
bad, and the ugly, huh?
That's correct.
Amen, amen.
Yep.
Maria, would you agree with that and add to that?
Absolutely. It's funny, I always, let me back up a little bit. My company was a government contractor. And, one of the things about the President's Roundtable is just the whole networking, being able to have one member put another member in touch with someone that
Absolutely.
will help you be able to grow your business. And I found, I knew even going into the PRT that being a federal government contractor, it just doesn't work that way. It's
see.
not just relationships that gets you the next job or
Right.
the next contract.
Right.
So I knew that I probably wouldn't benefit from the organization in the way that I think most people think that they're going to benefit. But the mentorship, being able to have the ability to sit around a table with
Absolutely.
seasoned business people who had gone through a lot of the stuff that I had been through and
Right.
stuff that I had not yet encountered
Right.
was priceless.
Absolutely.
I was fortunate to know 3 of the 4 founding members. Ray Haysbert,
Wow.
Terry Addison.
Wow.
Actually, Terry brought me in to
Is
the
that
PRT.
right? So Terry sponsored you, okay.
Although he and Garland Williamson used to argue
They
about who
debate
brought them in.
that.
But Terry was the one who brought me in. Of course, I knew Mr. Payne.
Sure.
And I just would sit around and just absorb, like a sponge, just all of the knowledge.
Absolutely.
And you can't. There are people that in your lives that don't necessarily understand the challenges of being the owner of a business and having to, like you said, make payroll and deal with the marketing and all the other things. And those folks have been through it.
Absolutely.
And I have. It's funny. I was gushing with someone earlier today about how the PRT will always have a very special place in my heart because you are my family.
Absolutely.
You are my extended family. And Eddie, Stanley, Arnold, there are so many people who have stepped up
Absolutely.
outside of the business area and just stepped in from a personal family standpoint to just help lift us up
Absolutely.
personally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let me
It's
just
just-
mention hopefully you still have the same principles. I'm now emeritus. But the basic principle was, let's do business with each other.
Absolutely.
All other things being equal.
Absolutely.
Whatever services you need around the table, if a member has those services
Absolutely.
and they're equivalent to anyone else, let's do business with each other.
Absolutely.
The other thing is, and I think it's still true, the clout collectively
Yes, sir.
is much greater than any one
Individual.
business person.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And actually, I think it's probably misperceived as being as powerful, but that's great. The collective powerful of
The collective power,
Yeah,
absolutely.
of the group.
I can assure you that we are still following those guidelines
Yeah.
today in PRT. Now, as we pivot to the future, I want to share with you that we've taken your vision and taken your foundation, and we're pushing it. We're pushing the PRT concept around the country. We're starting in Washington, D.C. market, and I've got Cora Williams. Cora, please stand. And Dr. Sheila Brooks, where are you? Please stand. So, over here. So, once again, women are leading the way. Can I get an amen to that? And they're leading the way to expand the PRT to Washington, D.C., and then beyond that. So your vision is taking ground and getting traction. In closing remarks, what do you see as the future of PRT and the PRT concept? As closing comments. I'll start with you.
Start with me. So I actually want to take the moment to talk about the future. So you were talking about the past. My future is actually in the PRT.
Yes, she is.
For those of you who don't know, Kia Yalchin is my daughter.
Yes.
And there you go, very good. And I can't be more proud of the fact that she wanted to step into this organization. She recognized the value of the organization, not just to herself and her company, but to the business community for African Americans. And the fact that she stepped in and is doing just a phenomenal job, to me, is just, that's my vision for the future of the PRT. But I'm just really pleased to see all that PRT is continuing to do. The CEO series, briefing series, making sure that folks are always aware of what's happening in the business community, but also providing those introductions to businesses that other, even non-PRT members can benefit from. And I think that just going forward, we just need to expand that and just continue to grow that.
I concur, and we definitely will. Closing thoughts about the future?
We as African Americans, we just have so far to go. And even though this group of business folks are very successful, yes, I would like to see the PRT members, many are doing it now, continue to mentor younger, less accomplished African Americans towards creating businesses and creating wealth, and to help them along the way.
Absolutely.
I think that's very
important. There you have it. Well, folks, there you have it. Maria, Ed, thank you so much. Maria, thank you.
Thank you.